Hello, welcome, Jerry Grandmaster Fast Responsiveness over here at another episode of Emily Power Talk Sport Karate Illustrated at the Dojine. This time we're going to the Mid-America and the South. That's right. So this gentleman back in the days was able to represent the United States overseas, beating guys like Alfie Lewis, from what I understand. But you know what? It's better to hear it from him. I don't know the particular details, but we're going to find out the past, present, and future of Master Rudy Smedley. Are you on, sir?
I am, Jerry. Thank you very much for that introduction. How are you?
Well, it's my sincere pleasure. Now, of course, you know, challenges come about, and you're busy. Thank God for that, and so are we over here. But we really appreciate the time for you to share some of your information. So this is not about me. It's about us. That means U.S., all of us. So we need to find out about you. What was either your motivation, your desperation, or your inspiration to start in the martial arts? Now, if you don't hear me, it's because I put myself on mute. So like that, you can tell your story, sir.
Well, tell me where to start.
In the beginning, what was your motivation, desperation, and inspiration to get you going?
Well, my motivation was I was a 16-year-old, pretty good athlete back in 1971. If I had a ball, I played it. And I loved, my favorite sport was football because of the contact. I played quarterback and cornerback, and both of those involve the quarterback involved the smarts and the cornerback involved the hitting. So I enjoyed both of them. And one day in the last period at study hall, in my sophomore year, a kid who was a neighbor of mine. He was my size. He really wasn't any bigger, but he was he was one of these tough guys. He was just kind of he was one of the bullies. And as I think about it now, I don't really know why, because he was, like I said, he wasn't a big guy, but he spit on a friend of mine, and I'm a musician. And this guy was my drummer in my band back then in high school, and he was kind of a nerdy-looking guy, I guess you would say. He was a great friend of mine still to this day, and but he was in the band. He wasn't an athlete, and this guy was doing this just to make him look bad. And so I wasn't trying to start anything. I just said, hey man, don't do that. And so he said, okay. And he said, I'm not going to spit on him. And he put that spit on his finger and threw it on me. He said, I'll just spit on you. How about that? And of course, everybody looked at me, and here I am the quarterback, and kind of the stud jock. And they were waiting to see what I did, and what I did was nothing. Because I was everybody's friend. I mean, just like today, I try to be everybody's friend, man. I don't want to be. I'm a Christian, and I want to get along with everybody. And life is too precious not to be happy. And the best, I find the best way to be happy is to treat people. That golden rule: treat people like you want to be treated. And I didn't know anything about fighting, and that was the last period of the day. And my Sunday school teacher took me to and from school, and he found me. I was supposed to be down in the field house after school, but man, I was so traumatized, Jerry, that I went and got in some school bus. I had no idea where it was going, and I was curled up in the back seat of the school bus crying. And somehow my Sunday school teacher that, like I said, took me to school and picked me up, took me home every day, found me, and he took me to my first karate lesson that night at the downtown Fort Worth YMCA, where Grandmaster J. Pat Burleson and Grandmaster Billy Breimer and Carol Murphy were the three black belts that were in there by themselves working out, and they didn't have any students yet. And I was their first student, 16 years old. And, I tell everybody that's how the game of hack-a-sack got invented. Because for the first 90 days, I was the only student for the first 3 months in there, and all they did was kick me around, So that's why I kind of kid and tell everybody that's how hack-a-sack got invented. But that's how it all started, man. And, it just sort of stayed. I was just a karate student for really about the first year and a half. I went and paid my money at tournaments because, we had to be in so many tournaments to move up in rank. And I paid my money, and this was back when, junior division was 15 years old and under, 1971. So if you were 16 years old back then, you were considered an adult. And, man, I was 16 years old, and I weighed 130 pounds, and, I was about as big around as a toothpick. And then all I did was pay my money, get beat up, and I wanted to go home. So, typical story, I just, went ahead and paid my dues, and then I didn't win a tournament, didn't win a medal, didn't even win a fight in one of my tournaments, didn't even win a round. And I got my brown belt, and Grandmaster June Ree had just invented safety gear, and I cannot tell you how I won this. I got third place in Grandmaster Jim Buten's tournament in North Texas, and I have no idea how it happened because I was scared to death. All I was doing was just getting beat up. And I got beat up in class, and, because I was the littlest kid in there. And, I was going through the motions, but I just did not have it in my mind yet that I could do it. I didn't have that I can attitude. And, so that comes to some students quicker than others. I was a late bloomer in that department. So, unfortunately.
Well, let me just interject, sir, because that's pretty fascinating to me, because when it's all said and done, you and John Longstreet, of all people, have something in common where you were the first student of what would be a long list of pioneers and legends that came from a place. In other words, when they opened up Mid-America, Junior Mid-America School up in Minnesota, John Longstreet was the first student ever at that school where John Worley and Gary Histolo was at. And you were the first student over here. In the meantime, the people that were teaching, we're talking about descendants of June Lee, but Taekwondo pioneers and legends. Am I right?
That's it. That's right. That's right. Yeah,
so,
the pecking order around here, the rank order is, for most of it, for really American Taekwondo is, Grandmaster Jun Ray, the Grandmaster Alan Steen, then Grandmaster J. Pat Barlowson, and then, everybody else falls into place under them.
It's fascinating to think how many quality, including Master Mike Coles and a whole bunch of other people, Jeff Smith included, that came from Texas, Minnesota,
right,
to Washington. And I posed the question yesterday to Mr. Mike Coles, what would happen if June Lee would have never been even here in the United States? I mean, we would not have this sport of ours ever going through those stages.
We probably would not be having this conversation, Jerry.
No doubt about that. Again, this is not a tribute to Grandmaster Reed. This is a tribute to the simple fact that all of us, as being extended family members, had a chance to really participate in some phenomenal stuff. And of all things, something that people just don't get or didn't get until they got involved. Martial arts is what brought the camaraderie. So, I get a kick out of the fact that I'm martial arts' greatest and biggest fan. That's all I am. And I've been fortunate to participate, but that's who I am. And what this is about 300. The 300. If I love that movie, The 300, the Spartans. So if I had to go to war and I can only pick 300 people worldwide in the history of sport karate that are presently alive, because rest in peace to a lot of legends I never had a chance to do this with, then you, sir, are one of my 300. Now, I don't know you personally, but I've always been a fan.
Well, thank you, Jerry. That's a great compliment, and it's a different type of compliment. So I really appreciate that.
Well, it's just you're very welcome to the simple fact. Hey, not too many people beat Alfie Lewis in the Waco event, and you might be the only one in the history.
Well, you know what?
He won 5 world championships. He won 5 world championships, right? And you beat him when he took second. So I think you might be the only person to ever beat Alfie Lewis at a world championships Waco.
Well, I'm the only one that, of course, I know I don't know if someone finally beat Alfie. You know, Alfie and I are great friends. We are brothers to the core. And it, you know, it's a great tribute, as you know, that people that, but I mean, I never disliked Alfie. I mean, you know, we had, it was never a feud, a running feud, but, you know, we tangled. We first had our first bout in '83, and it was in the quarterfinals at the Waco World Championships, and it went to overtime. And, you know, it's still controversial in my mind. And I mean, I'm happy for him to win, and I'm happy for you know, for it to have turned out the way it did, because it made me a better competitor. But you know, it's just it's one of those deals that you know, that in '85, you know, like I said, it went to overtime in '83, and in '85 I got him, and I'm still waiting to see the film on that one, man. I mean, I've got still pictures of it, but I'm still waiting to see the film of that one. And then we were going to have the tiebreaker in '87. And man, I had the Polacks, the Polish people, man, the competitors from Poland. I was wrapped up by the Poles. Man, I got beat in full contact and in points by Polish fighters. And I was defending champion, and I got beat in the first round, man. I got beat in the first round. I don't know what happened. I don't know. It's just one of those deals. You've been there, you know. It just happened. But and Alfie went on. Alfie did his part. Alfie he was waiting for me at the finals, but I got beat in the first round, and of course I was in his corner all, you know, for the rest of the tournament. And I think I got my first fan letter, if you can believe this. I think I got my very first fan mail from Alfie Lewis in '83 or '84 after he beat me in overtime. And I thought, wow, man, who would send me fan mail? And it was from my brother Alfie, and you know, he's the real deal, man. He cares about people, and that's the biggest thing in my mind. He cares about martial arts, just like you, and doing what you're doing with this. You know, Lord knows we're not doing it for the money. You know, he cares about martial arts. He cares about his students, and that's another deal. There's so many black belts that you know that they care about martial arts, but it's a selfish caring. They want the best for themselves, and that's where it stops. And you know, to me, the real great ones are the ones that care about the art itself, like yourself, like Alfie, and so many that, you know, look at Jeff Smith, look at Bill Wallace, look at, you know, I mean, all these guys, man, that have gone ahead of us, that set the bar for us. And, you know, that's what it's all about. And that's, you know, it reminds me a great deal of my Christian relationship with the Lord, is that, hey man, you know, I'm not just trying to get myself to heaven. Man, I want all my friends to be there, because I know it's a great place. So same thing with
amen to that.
Yeah.
Let me just interject for a second, because just look what starts to happen. Right? We started to have a conversation. I say this is about you, meaning us, and then exactly what you are paraphrasing right now is the truth. Now we're talking about giving kudos to the people, the pioneers and legends that came before us, that we stand on the shoulders of. Those giants we stand on the shoulders of. You know, and the common denominator that I notice when you really get honest with us is we were scared little boys that didn't want to get hurt and learn how to do something that made us feel like Superman, even though we were really Clark Kent. And martial arts is the common denominator.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So now, all right, let's we got, guys, I apologize for those of you listening. We got a little bit ahead of ourselves because Alfie Lewis and I were supposed to fight at the World Championships Waco in 93, but I ended up taking third to, it wasn't a Polish, but it was close to it. I think it was a Hungarian, officially, but that's a whole other story. When it's all said and done, so now here you are, you're a teenager, you're competing at Grandmaster Reed's tournament, not the Nationals in D.C., but actually in Texas where he first came through, and you placed third place, but it's all a blur, and you don't have it on 8 millimeter. You don't have it on film, so you can't go back to it. But who was competing during that time? Mention some of those names that you were competing against.
And you were a little bit unclear. Which time was it again? What years?
I apologize. The first time you actually placed at the tournament that Grandmaster Reed had in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Who were some of the competitors?
Paul McCullough. I was a brown belt. Paul McCullough and Jim Buten, of course, Grandmaster Buten, who just got promoted to 10th degree this about a year and a half, 2 years ago by Mr. Burleson. He's a J. Pat Burleson, Grandmaster Pat Burleson product, as almost everyone is in Fort Worth. Anyway, Paul McCullough was a great competitor. Trying to think of some of the other brown belts. Back then.
Even in the black belt division, you didn't compete with them using the brown belt division. But what do you remember about that event? Who was the competitors in the black belt division that might have won?
Well, Demetrius the Greek of Annas, number one. Man, he was about 3 years ahead of me. And I used to watch him and just, I'd go back to the Christ School and practice what I saw. And of course, I'm 6'4", and back then I weighed 150 pounds. And of course, Greek was maybe 5'7", 5'8", and weighed 160 pounds. But he was, to me, he was the greatest competitor that ever lived. And, of course, he passed away years and years ago. But there were so many, Jerry.
How about if I say this? As great as he was as a competitor, what a teacher. His students, my gosh.
Yeah.
The who's who
very few students, Jerry. Very few students. Because Greek only knew one way. And that was the pedal to the metal, man. And only the strong survived. And, just look at the list. You got Grandmaster Raymond McCallum. Then you got Billy Jackson, who is arguably the best full contact fighter of all time. The only person that ever beat Benny Urquidez was Billy Jackson. And, the world, for the most part, considers either Bill Wallace or Benny Urquidez as, the two best full contact fighters. Well, Billy beat him. It was only a 5-round fight. But, Billy beat him. And he beat him in a unanimous decision, not a split decision. Unanimous decision. And then, again, going back to Raymond, arguably the best point fighter of all time, and of course, Raymond went on to be a world champion in full contact as well. So, both of these guys came out of Demetrius of Annas' stable, and then you've got Tim Kirby, who was, a great fighter, a great point and full contact fighter. Guy Mesker, who went on to win not only in points and full contact, but was one of the UFC champions. I don't know if you knew that or not, Or if you know, do you know Guy?
All those guys, and in addition to that, we have Troy Dorsey, the only guy. Let's talk about him for a second. Part of the family.
Yes. Troy came up. Troy's 10 years behind me. So, Troy came up, and Greek took Troy under his wing. He took me under his wing from Fort Worth, and he took Troy under his wing from Fort Worth. And and I'll tell you another one that he took under he didn't really take under his wing, but he admired and really liked personally. And that was, our dearly departed brother, Grandmaster Adams Robinson, who was he was about a year ahead of me in training. He got his black belt about a year ahead of me, and him and Greek, they never fought in full contact, but every time they fought in points, Jerry, it was full contact. And Greek
not to forget anybody, but there wasn't a guy he wasn't too shabby. I mean, he did win the super lightweight kickboxing champion by the name of Cliff Thomas. That might have been part of that group.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. And of course, Cliff is from El Paso and living here in the DFW area now. And Greek trained him, and Cliff's a smart guy, so he picked his trainer well. And you just couldn't have picked a better trainer than Greek. If you want to be the best, be with the best. And he did. And Greek was on his way to Cliff's fight in Atlantic City when his plane crashed, and he passed away. So,
wow.
Yes, Cliff Thomas, thank you for, I should not need a reminder of that.
Yeah. Well, this is what it's all about. There's so much information here that quite a few people just don't know. And let me tell you what motivated me to do this a few years ago. If you see our brother there, Ray McCallum, I did not, actually did two with him as far back as 6 years ago, and then I had to drop it and life got in the way. Joe Corley and a bunch of other people that were the original ones. But what happened recently, I was at the Battle of Atlanta, and I've been fortunate in the past to be a pretty decent competitor myself. And
I know that.
Well, okay. This is going to sound a little funny, but if anybody knows who I am, sometimes I don't know who knows who the heck I am because I don't know. You don't know, right? I mean, but I've been wow. Rudy Smedley knows who I am. That's kind of cool, right? Check that out. You guys listening?
Listen, brother. I'm glad you came up in a different era. Let's just put it that way.
Oh my God. Well,
how's that? I believe if somebody deserves credit, I believe they ought to get credit. And after I retired in '87, I heard your name, multitudes of times. And and of course I was kind of late getting on the computer and stuff and being able to follow people, but still I was hearing your name here in Texas. Jerry Fontanez is, taking it to him. And so, kudos to you on that, brother. Got a way to, not only are you carrying the torch as, from the fighting standpoint, but also you're carrying the torch on continuing to help martial arts grow and to educate people on martial arts and the history and the people that made it what it is, including yourself.
Well, I highly appreciate that. So this is what happened. I'm sure you would agree. You had the Battle of Atlanta, which is historical event. You can't get, besides the Taekwondo people in the Chuck Norris operation, then you would probably have to add as one of the dominant forces would be anyone who came with Joe Corley and Vitale and everybody else. I mean, that's the way I saw it. My God, the South was Joe Corley in terms of Southeast, and everybody else that came, right? Okay. So that being the case, I'm at the Battle of Atlanta, and two of the modern day, if it makes any sense, if it adds up to it, the modern day media for sport karate, or what is known as sport karate today, interviewed me that day. But while they interviewed me, they walked past at least 15 or 20 people they should have been talking to before me. But they don't know who those people are. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm in awe to get a chance to speak to these people who I have read about or seen maybe once in a lifetime. And they talking to me, and I'm like, you know what? That's not. I'm thinking in my head, this is horrible, and there's the generation gaps. And then I'm saying, but there's no. Where's the Wikipedia for karate? You know, where's the historical footages that are documented and packaged? No one's gonna do it. Otherwise, they would have done it already. How much history is just gone? And I said, you know what? I'm gonna pick up that ball again and do the 300. And I never finished it. Life got in the way. At one point, I was manufacturing sports apparel, karate uniforms I invented that people could wear in the street like a warm suit. The World Combat League second season, I made all the uniforms for Chuck Norris there, the Tom Kudo, and most of the uniforms that you see out there, actually, those are like copies of what I invented in 1997. I'm relaunching it for a while, but that's a whole other subject matter. But the point wasn't that there's so many people that are pioneers and legends that are not appreciated, and they forgot what they've done. And that's not right, because when it's all said and done, they are people who have inspired many, and they need to get recognized not for buying a chicken at a buffet, but recognized for what things they've done. And this is my way of it. Hopefully I can inspire another 99 people to do this, because even with 100 people doing what I'm doing, there's not enough to cover all the people who came before us and that are still around and that have some incredible, phenomenal, true story. And that's what this is about. I mean, come on. Well,
this is a great thing that you're doing, brother. It's a great thing that you're doing.
Well, I appreciate, look, again, you have a schedule, I have a schedule, we made it happen, right? So it's not me.
Absolutely.
It takes two. It's us. And in recent days, I had an opportunity to speak to a guy named Charles Bonet, and Charles Bonet was doing movies as a Latin version of Bruce Lee over in Thailand, not known in the United States, but him and Ron Van Cleef, the Black Dragon, doing stuff. And then he trained in Okinawa with Chuma Bukuru a few months before even Joe Louis got there. I'm like, I get a chance to talk to this guy. He freaked me out. He said that he used to go to one of my schools and watch classes, never saw me, but he said that my students were good. And I'm like, wow. So I get blown away when anyone even knows my name, let them know I've been to my operation, because you don't know who knows you. I'm not going to assume somebody knows me, and it's not about me anyway. I'm their fan. It just so happens to be I was blessed also to have some God-given skills and the tenacity to cultivate it, to do my little part. But we only do it just for a fraction of a second. Now that this is being documented, there's a very good possibility someone's listening to this 200 years from now.
Well, this is what we can only hope, right?
Do your part.
We certainly hope so.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to you a little more, because, wow, 6'4" and 150, 60, 70, eventually got a little bigger. Point karate, kickboxing, which one was easier for you to do? And I think I know the answer already. Fight back then they call it full contact, but what was easier for you to do?
Full contact karate came out when I got my black belt. I was just about to and I tested at 75 and for my black, and that's when the very first full contact karate came out. And it was rough, man. It was rough. But as far as what was my favorite, you know what, man? What my favorite was, really, Jerry, was whatever I was doing right then. Because after I got my brown belt and I started winning tournaments, and I started to realize that hey, guess what? I could hit back, and in most cases, I could hit back faster and harder. And I got to train with Greek, and I got to train with Ray McCallum, and we made each other better because we were all right here in this DFW area. And so it was, I can't tell you how many times that I would leave my school and on a Thursday night and have one of my black belts teach at my business. And I drive over to Dallas to Troy Dorsey's school, and Raymond and Billy Jackson and myself, and it was one of the very first original fight nights. And we would all get over there, and on Thursday night, and of course we're in the karate business, you know, we didn't have to open our schools until noon on Friday. We would stay in there, Jerry, and that's how the friendships, and you understand this, that's how the depth of our friendships started. It didn't just start with us meeting. It started with us kicking and punching each other in the head and in the body and dropping each other, and you know, and not being mad about it, being amazed by it and going, hey, how did you do that? And explaining to each other how we did individually what we did with each other. And, you know, we still had our own styles, but we developed our own styles from what we learned from each other on that Thursday night, every weekend, week out. I mean, it didn't make any difference. We had a tournament. We had to leave and catch a plane on Friday to fight Saturday. We never missed that Thursday. We were there. And it was, you know, yeah, man, it was blood and guts karate, Texas blood and guts. But, you know, when it was over, we spent another 2 hours sitting there with our gear on still and laughing about how we hit each other that night, and not telling war stories about the past, just telling war stories about that particular night. You know, and it was so cool. Great memory.
You know something. Okay, there's a concept that we've used throughout the years called each one teach one. Right? Each one teach one, and that's what happens there. You know, what sport karate used to be and is supposed to be, or tournament karate, point karate, whatever you want to call it, are two diamonds in the rough rubbing against each other for the betterment of all. You know, that's really what it comes down to. You know, the best, you know, you got punched in the face. I got punched in the face by Billy Blanks in 1986. Madison Square Garden, because I was trying to knock him out. Why? Because the night before I knocked somebody out, and you know what happens when you knock somebody out. Who's next? Even though I knocked him out by mistake, right? You know how it works. And then I know Billy got knocked out twice that year. So I said, well, they're not going to give me the point, but I'm going to take him out, because this is in Madison Square Garden on ESPN TV in New York City. I'm the only New Yorker that's representing. That was a whole story. I was the only New Yorker on stage, and I'm like, I have to fight for everybody here. So I say, I'm going to hit him with a pow. And before I know it, I'm on my back, and Madison Square Garden is spinning, and I hear I see the lights and all that stuff, and I'm hearing the. In the meantime, it ended up breaking my jaw. Now, that's absolutely, bar none, the best thing that ever happened to me. My teeth are crooked because of that. When they wired me, since I had perfect teeth, I had no overbite, underbite. My teeth shifted, and one went to the back and one went to the front, and I noticed that as soon as they took the wires off. And I'm like, my mom's going to kill me was the first thing I thought about. But it was funny. And I was 20 years old. I said, my mom's going to kill me. And I was 20 years old. I said, my mom's going to kill me. My teeth were crooked. But what ended up happening was that I had an option to go have them put the wires again. But I said, no, there's a tournament this weekend. I need the money, you know. But my point is that, bar none, that was my best experience. To this very day, my teeth are still crooked, and it's going to sound crazy, sick, but I left them like that, and it reminds me, you never think in the middle of a match. You never think, you respond. You just do what I was thinking. Right. You don't think in the middle of the match. You're spectating. No, you don't spectate in the match. So I blocked with my face, not a good thing, and because of that, I paid for it. And it never happened again. Bar none. Now, that same year, Billy Blanks was on the rampage, and there's a few people that he knocked out of karate. We never saw them again. He heard them. He broke cheekbones and jaws, and I was the only guy that I continued. And because of that, that's when my career started as a fighter, because I said never again. But Billy was the one that taught me how to do the blitz, you know. Nasty Allison taught me how to do a dive bomb. I learned the footwork from, rest in peace, Joe Lewis. I was his assistant 3 times in a row. And then I was fortunate enough to be in an environment like New York City that It was in Texas, but it was as tough as freaking any place you can go. Just ask Raymond Callum, who came to Harlem of all places to compete alone.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when I was like, what the heck is this? So anyway, I went off on a tangent. My point is that birds of a feather flock together. And if you want to be with other champions, you have to be around champions. And you get judged by the company that you have. So those of you listening, if your company is not really the best, I suggest you change groups, because we are all family, relatively born into family you choose. We're as dysfunctional as any family when it comes to the martial arts, but I can go anywhere in the world and find somebody that we can relate to, because they're as crazy as you or I. If you kick me to the head, oh my God, I respect you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man,
I agree 100%.
Oh my gosh! All right, I really do want to be respectful of your time. So if you can give me about another 10 minutes, if that's possible.
No, I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good.
Right, so let me ask you some specific questions for now. If I mention the Fort Worth Pro-Am, give me some of your experience on that, because I never had an opportunity to go there, but I read about it. Any year.
The Fort Worth Pro-Am. Well, it was. Of course, that's Grandmaster Roy Corbin's tournament, and I won it. I fought in it. 4 years. I won it 3 out of 4 years, and so I was very, very fortunate, very blessed to be able to do that. I got to meet some really good people. The year that I didn't win, oddly enough, going back just a little bit in our conversation, Billy Blanks got me. I just had surgery 2 weeks before, and I was, I wanted to fight. So, I wanted to make it 4 years in a row, and I got through the prelims, but he got me in the grands. He got me in the grand champions. So, I know what you were talking about. I was feeling your pain when you were talking about that. But the Fort Worth Pro-Am, Grandmaster Corbin is an awesome martial artist in every category. From his beginnings in Korea, yes, I believe it was Korea, and he's still involved with Grandmaster Juan Park, and anyway, I have never seen anything that Roy Corbin did not do that was not 100% first class. And Mr. Corbin flew in the best, the top-notch competitors from all over the United States. That's what Billy was doing here. Larry Kelly. Funny story with Larry, who's of course a good friend of mine on Facebook. We only got to fight one time, but Mr. Corbin had flown him in and had seeded him in the grand championships. And for those of us who weren't seeded in the grand championships, to fly somebody from out of state, and he had Grandmaster Corbin had good reasoning behind it, because he was the number 1 rated fighter in the country that year. And that's back when all the divisions were rated, 1 through 10. And so over all the divisions, he was the number 1 rated fighter. And I forget what year it was, 80-something. But, I had won my division, so now I'm fighting Larry Kelly in the first round. And they spent like 5 minutes talking about Larry Kelly and introducing him. And I'm standing in the ring. And they get through talking about him for 5 minutes, then they go, and from Fort Worth, Texas, Rudy Smedley. And so the short story of that is he tried to kick, he advertises with all his head kicks, and he knocked Billy out with you can see that on YouTube. He knocked Billy out with a heel kick, front leg heel kick, and so I was aware of it. I knew about it. I was prepared for it. I knew I was going to fight him, and tried to kick me in the head, and then I side kicked him in the groin, And so, when you're fully extended, doing the splits, doing that head high kick, that groin's exposed. And in Texas, that's a very valid target for us. We fight in tournaments like it's a street. And so if I'd kick him in the cup and felt his cup move all the way over to his side, so I got my 2 points there. And so while he's recovering from that, then I kicked him in the head. And it's 4-0. I just reached up, hit him with a back fist in 20 seconds. Took 5 minutes. Took 5 minutes to introduce him for all his accolades. It took me about 20 seconds to beat him. And trust me, I'm not bragging. I was very blessed
no.
to be able to do that.
Of course, but this is my point. By the way, just for the record, Kicking Kelly from Connecticut before he went to Massachusetts was the only person who I can identify by seeing him compete in the New York area also, who was part of the WrestleNation, because like I told the guys from New York, man, we were supposed to be the best according to us, but when I looked at the ratings, I didn't see any New Yorkers for 10 years. And I was like, what the heck? If we're supposed to be so good, then why are we not there? And then everyone had their own excuse. So I said, I'm going to go out there. It took me years after to get there because welfare didn't pay for it, But my point was, Larry Kelly, Kicking Kelly from Connecticut originally, I fought him 2 times and beat him both times, and it was out of fear.
Oh, man. Good for you. Good for you. Yeah. Good for you. So he's a good notch for both of our belts.
Yeah, but and I'm looking forward to being able to interview him. I got guys lined up like Charlie Lee, who's an attorney now. So I have to speak to him November 7th. We had to change it. So everything has to be scheduled. And obviously you had a rotating schedule. You and I wasn't too bad. But Mr. Wallace, I'm presently in Florida, so he's about 20 minutes away from here. So his is going to be a little different. When we do Superfoot, it'll be an on-loc, meaning an on-location. It'll be a video-based one. That's going to be interesting because my nickname was Fast Feet, and he was Superfoot. And the reason why my mother gave me the nickname Fast Feet was because the guy named Superfoot gave me an autograph on September 19th, 1981. And when I went home, I said, Mom, he's the only person I ever asked to give me an autograph, by the way. So Bill Swivel Wallace gave me an autograph. I got home. I said, Mom, I need a nickname. And she said, Fearless Fast Feet. I said, okay, I'll be Fast Feet, and I'll always be fearless because I don't have enough letters to put them on the back of my shirt, And that's how it came about. But it's phenomenal to think how, again, the better they are, the better we become, or the fear factor kicks in, and then you perform better. I'm sure those guys from Poland knew who you were, and you didn't know who the hell they were.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Kirby spent a lot of money to fly him down here and put him up, But it was just one of those deals. Not saying that I was any better than Larry by any means. And Larry and I are good friends, and he has my complete respect. And he's a great champion. And I'm thankful that I got to compete against him. It was just happened to be one of those deals, and I know you know what I'm talking about. Every competitor out there that was a champion knows what I'm talking about. I happened to be on, and I happened to be on against him, and that's the way it happened.
Right. Well, again, when it's all said and done, I believe that there's a big difference between the eras. Now, this is in my crazy mind. I had to come up with a conclusion to different stages in an era. I say roughly from 1977, based in competition, from 1976 to 1988, that's all karate era. To me, I call it the platinum era. Before that, there was the blood and guts and the golden era. I call it platinum because we stood on the shoulders of giants. We can still do the basics that everybody else did, the foundational stuff, but we can also do a little extra. If Billy threw a cartwheel, then Ray could do a rollout to the opposite way. If somebody could do a scissor takedown, you could probably punch them in between there. And those are things that were taken away from us from a spectator standpoint or participator standpoint. And as we speak, this is really crazy. Out in England right now, the World Martial Arts Organization, Alfie Lewis being the president of that, has the World Championships. I couldn't go, so I put and made Michael Dietrich into the president, so he's out there representing us in terms of the United States. But Michael Dietrich is a student of Jun Rhee, who traveled to Korea and throughout the United States, throughout the world as a demonstrator when he was 11 years old and his brother was 4 years old. So back again to Jun Rhee. So Jun Rhee descendants are representing right now the World Championships as leaders in England right now. So
I see.
So if Reed wasn't around, and by the way, Grandmaster Reed will be one of the people on one of these power talks, just so you know. We are not holding anything back. You know, Master Corley was already on a few times. I mean, I should say I interviewed him twice also, and I got some people are going to be blown away by the people who are going to come on and share their experience on these conversations, because this here is only the beginning of what will be opening up the floodgates of information during the information age in a market or industry that is multi-billion-dollar international, and it goes back many, many, many decades. And people treat it like it's little. It's nothing bigger than martial arts. It changed my life. It saved my life. So what's bigger than that? Do you agree about that, sir?
Oh man, I you know, what you're doing is an incredible thing, man. It's and I think I speak for all martial artists, especially you know, martial artists that are not the millennials, you know, the millennial children, that we appreciate, guys like you and I. We appreciate you know, the Skipper Mullins, you know, the Jim Harrisons, the of course the J. Pat Burlesons and the Alan Steens, you know, the David Moons, Ed Daniels, you know, and then you know you start moving up to Fred Wren, and it just, you know, it just moves on up, and then it starts getting into, you know, Demetrius and D.P. Hill and David Archer, Raymond, Billy Jackson, Troy Dorsey, and yourself. I mean, it just, you know, we're the ones, we saw it happen. We saw it happen right there before our very eyes. We witnessed it. And for you to take the time, your time, to talk to us, for you to value our stories, to value what we remember and our part of the history of martial arts, the competitive history, and where we came from, how we got there, who influenced us. You know, talking about these tournaments like Roy Turbin's Fort Worth Pro-Am, you know, one of the biggest tournaments in the United States. You know, with the Warleys, with the Diamond Nationals, and the Battle of Atlanta with Joe Corley, and, you know, the Long Beach with Grandmaster Ed Parker at the Internationals. You know, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But you know, anyone that would not appreciate what you're doing, Jerry, is, you know, I would have to question whether or not they were a true martial artist.
Well, I appreciate that. My only challenge that I have is some days I do 3 of them, and some days I do 4. And
well,
I need help. You know, I need help. So this is going to motivate. I'm starting a thing. I just came up with the idea yesterday. It's called the Martial Arts Media Association. And I want to congregate other magazines and what have you to work, you know, collectively. Because when there's all done, there's too many stories. To walk by a person who literally might seem, with no disrespect, almost like a zombie because his spirit's gone, his posture is just off. You know, you can walk by him on the street and people could consider him a derelict. And no, that guy is somebody. He's a god creation, right? But he also may have specific history of things he's done. He forgot about it. He could be a former boxer, whatever it is. It breaks my heart when people of the industry don't even know their own history. Everyone you mentioned, and I can even add some people, not that you purposely say it,
sure.
But we could go on and on. If all we did was mention names, we would be talking for hours without even giving explicit detail. You mentioned, Roy Turbin, one of the best point fighters ever that was fighting the way we fought years after, way before everybody, winning tournaments that on paper he should have never won. And it was documented in you know, Gladiators, you know, the new Gladiators, which was a documentary that, rest in peace, freaking Elvis Presley sponsored. I mean, come on, this is crazy. Cecil Peoples was there also. I mean, and people don't know who they from. Are you kidding me? Those people are the ones that we learned from and mimicked. I was fortunate to kick with my left leg and my right leg. Why? On my right leg, I was one person. On my left leg, I was another person. And it depends on the technique. So what I was doing was mimicking people. My right side was one, and my left side was the other side. I hit people with every technique because I was combining maybe 23 people.
Yep.
Not me.
Yep. See, that sounds a whole lot like my description of at Troy Dorsey's fight night on Thursday night at the school. You know, we learned from each, we learned from each other, and we were all happy to do so. You
just said Troy Dorsey. Okay, the only guy to win world championships in point karate, continuous contact, full contact, and boxing also. It sounds like a lie.
No, it's not a lie. I was there at every one of them. But it sounds like a lie. That all these people that we met, the majority of them came from a guy named Demetrius the Greek Cavanis, who was more famous as a brown belt than he was even as a freaking black belt. How's that? Because he was Greek. He was Greek. And in Texas and really around the world, his death made him even more world renowned because, people that didn't know him personally in life, who is this guy? And who was this guy? What did he do? And they, they look back and they hear stories of people that knew him, that saw him, that fought him and worked out with him, and they go, wow. So he's, some legends are more known and well known after death than life. Because people think about, hey man, that they can't believe it. They can't believe it. But I'm grateful for Joe Corley and his ESPN stuff with his PKA because he preserved a whole lot of that early greatness of so many people like Greek, like Demetrius Avanis, and so many others. Jeff Smith.
All right, now imagine this, right? Here I am. I'm a Puerto Rican from the Bronx and reading karate magazines and visualizing to become one of those champions someday, perhaps. Today I'm going to be 50 years old. Mr. Corley, I spoke to him this morning, and I've had to, I text him that I can't speak to him right now since he called me twice because I'm doing your interview, right? This is what's happening, right? Corley is calling me now. I was in his house on last Wednesday, My job is to do not just the apps for those great fights that we have, or websites and anything that has to do with modern-day marketing. I even designed the PK new uniform, which I'm launching with my company. He's going to be in Canada the next few days doing PK fights again because Johnny Theriot's brother, Victor Theriot, already did some amateur fights that are on television with like a reality show base. In other words, after the two fighters fight, they get in front of the masters, and the masters determine if they should continue with advice on a career of fighting or not. Imagine that, like a modern day, like American Idol version, but for kickboxing. The point is that Corley's doing that right now. Victor Theriot is doing that right now. And my job is to package it and expose it to the industry properly. So some of the power talks that I'm having are with people who were PK legends, such as Michael Coles, and I got Mr. Smith lined up and Mr. Wallace lined up, and on and on and on. Paul Vizio, my very good friend, lined up. So whoever's alive, we're going to get to them so they can tell their story. Cool. Now, in addition to that, I also have some other things that can help them. It's sad when I see people who are phenomenal into kicking and punching, but they never learned the business aspect. And the reason they didn't learn the business was because they couldn't respect the people who was teaching them the business. Right. It was like, that guy, I don't know who he is. How are you going to teach me? And my belief was that, hey, listen, if I could beat them in the ring, I should be able to beat them in business. Let me just find out what they know about business. And with the same tenacity that I did in the ring, I'm going to do it in the business. That's it.
Sure.
I make mobile apps. I make mobile websites. I do. That's the same as giving out a flyer. I'm not a techie. I type with one finger with one hand, but I make things happen, just like Musashi Miyamoto did in the Book of Five Rings and all of his candles, right? There's a black belt excellence that we are able to tap into from the God-given gifts that we have, and we cultivate them. And what we do with that gift is God gives back, and we give them a gift back by having the best quality life. And that's what my crazy mind thinks about. What can I do to help? Period. You know?
Right.
Zig Ziglar said, help enough people get what they want, you can get what you want. Well, I want to be happy. And when I talk about martial arts and I go reminisce and I get an opportunity to meet some of these people in person that I had a conversation with, oh, my gosh, I am the happiest person at that moment. And being a fan, I get an opportunity to speak to all the people that I never had a chance to, like yourself or even John Longstreet. I never had a conversation with you guys, but you know what I did? I watched you guys, and I thought, I read about it. I'm like, man, if I fought against him, and then the next one, and I visualized as a 50-year-old soon, it's the same thing. I would love to have been able to be in there. Now, imagine being with when Chuck Norris was working out with Joe Louis and Mike Stone over there in California. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I wish I could have been there. And then in Texas, and then imagine being there and you're doing some play fighting and you got Joe Corley and Keith Vitale. I'll just stop there because he can go on and on and on. Those groups of people. Man, I wish I was there too. And then imagine the workouts that they had, even though they left Texas and they left even Washington, D.C., but the Walleys and the Carnahans and the Hispanos and then the John. Oh, my gosh, I wish I was there too.
Yeah. See, I had a chance to work out with all those guys, you know, and they were Chuck Levin products, you know. And those guys were from Fort Worth, Texas, Jerry. Those guys were from Fort Worth, Texas. And Jeff Smith was just, you know, was not from Fort Worth, but he was in one of the neighboring towns not far.
Mm-hmm. So, and that I tell people it's so funny. He's the DC bomber from Texas. Come on, man, you guys know your history. You don't know the history. Like they don't know their own history of their own family tree. I don't care what style it is. I've always been an addict. Obviously, I have A to Z. People say ADHD, but I have a lot more letters double than just D. You know, so you want that, you get it. My point is that I love this stuff, so I don't care what style it is. I just want to participate or spectate. I'd rather participate than spectate. Kind of hard to spectate and not participate when I go to events, but what makes it different was that I you know, the fighters of yesteryear did a different sport. I call that sport sniper fighting. So they were all sharp, precise, and on point. And they could take you out with one blow sometimes, headshot or center mass. Because if what they do today is called point karate, then I don't know what that is. If that's sport karate, I don't know what that is. So we must have done something else. So instead of being the old man that's playing the young generation, I say, hey, what they're doing is different. So we must have been doing something else.
Oh, we were for sure doing something. We were fighting. We were fighting.
What
you know, it's a game of tag now. And, you know, it was a game of tag back then, too. But, you know as well as I do that when you saluted
when Billy broke my jaw, that was a point.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you that part. That was a point.
Yeah. Yeah. When he knocked me out, it was a point. You know? But it was, you know, like I said, we were fighting. We were not. And we
got the point. We got the point.
Yes.
Keep your hands up a more.
Right. Yeah. So,
you know what I say? I say, imagine basketball, and those of you who heard me before, you know this analogy, and I apologize just because I'm saying it again, but up until 1988, the ball had to go inside the hoop. Imagine how many spectators would have came in basketball if in 1989 all they had to do is hit the rim, you know, and then you follow a few more years, and all they had to hit the backboard, and then another year just throw it in the court. Today you got to just text it in. What the heck you doing, man? It's not basketball. If that's not basketball, if you call that basketball, then I have to call it something else. So that's why you, sir, are a sniper fighter. You were sharp, precise, and on point. And I use this to recognize the real sniper fighters who are part of the 300 that if they went with me, we could beat anybody else in the world. That might have been thousands because we're made from a very similar fabric, you know, and that's my crazy mind. That's what I believe, you know, because I love to, you know, I never had a chance to compete. I went to Texas 2 times, competed there, did really well. I had a wonderful time. I actually beat, you know, Tony Lopez and that was funny because he's a Dominican guy originally from New York that relocated down there, you know, that fighting me with one eye. Right. The guy's fighting me with one eye. He's better than people with 3 eyes, you know. And then he's with point karate, but then he's fighting in Japan for the WK doing kickboxing. And what the heck is that? And then he could do a weapons form or a musical form with the best of them in the world. I'm like, these are superheroes. And I get a chance to meet some of these superheroes and then compete with them and then actually beat them. Wow, that's crazy. I met Rooster Mac in 1988 at the Bermuda Invitational Grand in Bermuda, the only one that I went to. And we had such an incredible time. But what do I know about Rooster Mac? Well, I know that he was a young kid as a peewee when I was in Texas, the same way Rick Rufus was over there, and Arlene Lemus, and a guy named Richard Davenport, because those were the only juniors that were getting print in Karate Illustrated during that time. So what did I want to do? I want to go beat those guys, test my skills against them. Didn't happen as a teenager, and maybe it will happen in my 50s, because today you could be 50 years old and be the youngest in the division. And if it's with the WMO, it's exactly the same way we used to compete way back when. And that's why I'm supporting this thing by any means necessary, because I want to get a chance to play.
Right.
That's
Rooster just turned 50. He just had he was roasted. Gary Lee had his annual gathering, Black Belt gathering event in Houston, and the theme of that this year was roasting Rooster. Rooster is a very dear friend of mine, and how about I tell you that the keynote speaker that day never made it, and that was me, because we had to change some. I was supposed to roast the Rooster. Yeah.
I was there scheduled for that.
You know. Raymond Callum is, of course, is very close to Rooster also.
Right.
But Raymond has got a saying about Rooster. He goes, you know, that Rooster, he ain't no chicken.
That's right. Oh, my God, that's incredible. Sir, can you just give me, so we could just, you know, bring it full circle. What are you doing today? That was past. What's the present?
I have my own school. It's just west of Fort Worth, about 5 minutes west of Fort Worth, and you can see that school by going to Rudy Smedley, RudySmedley.com. You can see my school. You get to see my history. I've got, Jerry, I've gone through a bunch of my photographs, my historic photographs that go all the way back to 1971, and they are displayed on that website. And I'm 60 years old. I'm scheduled to have my right knee replaced on December 15th, and January 1st gets here, I'll be back out on the mat teaching. You know, if I have to be in a walker, I'll be in a walker. There's when people go to your karate school, they want you. If people that are your students, they want you to teach them. People who are Raymond Callum students, they want Raymond to teach them. People Troy Dorsey students, they want Troy to teach them. At Rudy Smedley's karate school, they want Rudy Smedley to teach them. And so, we have to be there. We have to be there. We have to show up. That old deal. First rule, get up. Second rule, clean up. Third rule, dress up. And the most important, show up. And so I got to show up, man. And so I'm going to have, that's what's going on present day as we speak. I did come back, and I came out of retirement briefly. I've got both my hips replaced, and my knee has had 5 operations on it. But I did fight in the United States Karate Championships back in June 21st, and I did okay. At age 60, man. I got out there and I knocked my first opponent down. I beat him 5-zip, and second opponent, he was a 3-year defending champion, and I knocked him down 5 times. I mean, I've watched the tape, but you know, then he didn't argue with the. We know that you can't argue with the refs. You're just wasting your time if you do that. So I ended up losing 5-4 to the guy that had won it the last 4 years in a row. And I'll promise you, he didn't want to fight anymore. You know, after the first 5 seconds of that fight, he didn't want to be there. But it was okay. I had a good time. I'm sitting here in my office downstairs here in Fort Worth, and I'm looking at my second place trophy. And you know what? If I'm winning a second place trophy, then it's time to hang him up.
Well, you know that second place wasn't really second. Otherwise, you would have said something like this. I came out, I thought I still had him, I got my butt whooped, I better stay back. No, you didn't say that. Yeah. You know the real deal was that. And that's what I love. I love the fact that we can go from Clark Kent to Superman in a half a heartbeat. Because that is the size of who we are. You know, and you're a minority. I'm looking at your website. You're a minority in even having a mobile-friendly website. You know, I mean, I have guys right now that say, listen, you guys might be black belts and you're pioneers and legends, but your marketing really has to be stepped up. What are you doing? You know,
they're behind the times, Jerry. They're behind the times. They're behind the times technically, you know, and they're probably not going to get caught up. And so it's just like you said, man. One of the only ways for them to be acknowledged, for them to be remembered, for them to tell their story is you doing what you're doing. You have my ultimate gratitude. You have my ultimate respect. And, you know, in Texas, we don't really bow. You know, we salute.
Yep.
But I'm telling you this, brother. You have my deepest bow. I have no problem bowing to Jerry Fontanez. Yes.
Thank you very much. And we might hit heads when we bowing.
That's it.
Ooh! I hate when that happens. I'm looking at this photo. You got McCallum, Vitale, Smedley, Longstreet. So far, all of them have done Doe Giants. And the one that's lined up for next week, Mr. John Chung. Okay, so that photo, 4 out of those 5 dentists prefer Doe Giant already.
There you go.
This is incredible. This is wonderful. I commend you because, again, guys, listen up. Listen, you might be a black belt and kicking and punching in the history of martial arts, but if your business is like a white belt, then you're going to have to be a bouncer at age 60. You know, you don't have to, guys. You know, learn how to do things. People say, oh, that person's a sellout. No. Selling out is tickets and seats on the floor. Being a sellout is teaching junk. You're never going to teach junk because that's not in your DNA. But learn how to market. Learn how to market because it's right. I tell people, if you really want to think about it, you think, how many followers would 2 people have? One, Jesus Christ. Today, not just him and Bruce Lee. Are you kidding me? No one in the world would have more followers than those guys. You know, okay, maybe, you know, Gandhi and all those. They all would have been using all the stuff. It's communication, information. If they don't know who you are, how can they make an adjustment or an assessment? It drives me crazy to think that people think all karate schools are the same. The one that's next to the pizzeria and the nail salon and every little strip mall? No. We're not even close to the same. So in Dojan, I'm putting a directory of the real schools. Sir, if you want to listen to this Power Talk, it'll be very simple. It's dojan.com / your last name. And there I have photos and links to your site, and it really is just an extension of what is the truth. Pioneers and legends must be documented in order for people to... The confusion is they think it's bragging. No. It's bragging if it's a lie. It's reporting if it's the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Because people
That's
are buying the lies. The ones that have no quality information are better marketers. And who are they? They're the ones that are marketing so people believe that. Enough of that nonsense. I'm going to help people, if they choose, to learn how to earn. To learn how to earn based on what they've done. And I'm not anti-people getting their Hall of Fame. Hey, if that floats your boat, great. But I want to recognize people for things they've done, not because they bought the chicken package.
Right.
But I'm crazy anyway. What the heck?
Hey, man, hey, we're all, for all of us that have made it in the martial arts, for all of us that had success, especially in the fighting in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we're all touched a little bit crazy. We're all blessed. Hey, we're blessed beyond our beliefs.
We're in good company.
Yeah, but we're a little bit crazy too.
Yeah, but that's the common. Okay, all right. Getting more specific here. The common denominator of successful people is that they've always been different. At the very least, there've been the 20%ers that said, "Well, why not?" When the masses went this way, we went the opposite way. But when we went the opposite way, it was only a handful of special force people, 5 or 6 of them in teams, and those 5 or 6 people in teams did more than 100 people combined because they worked in synergy, similar minds, synergy. 1 + 1 could be 2. Or 1 + 1 could be 11. That's called synergy. When 2 people of similar mind work together, they invent a greater third mind. Or when 2 or more pray, mountains move. So,
could not agree with you more.
It's my belief. Sir, any parting words that you want to give shout-outs and loves and so on and so forth to take the mic, sir?
Well, I tell you, I just shout-outs to... first, I'm just so thankful that God has blessed my life, and you know what, I could be richer monetarily if I'd taken probably any other avenue to make a living, but I could not be more rich with God's blessings in martial arts because of my friends that I have made, and shout outs to the people that Grandmaster Alan Steen, Grandmaster Pat Bartleson, Grandmaster and my personal instructor Billy Bramer, and to my stablemates that I have spent the most time with here. Of course, Raymond and I got together. I was 19, he was 16. No, I was 19, he was 15. And we've been together since 19.
Raymond the kid.
We were kids, man, and shout out to Troy. I did not know how to box until I met Troy back in 1981, and he was best man at my wedding, and I love him and his family dearly, and my wife Cindy for standing by me. I come home without a paycheck. But yet I stay up at the Christ School until 11 o'clock teaching because they need my help. They're willing to stay and learn. You know what? I'm willing to stay and teach. So, and finally to my students at my school for supporting the 60-year-old man and sticking behind me. And, it's not based on what I did. It's based on what I'm doing. And so I'm thankful to be able to continue to do this. So, and, last but not least, brother, thank you, Jerry Fontanez. Shout out to you. My ultimate respect, my deepest bow. You're doing it yourself. We're speaking it. You're doing it. You're covering it. And, I don't know how you're getting paid. I don't know how much you're getting paid, but however much it is, brother, it's not enough. So there you go.
Hey, listen, I appreciate it. Just, again, on that bow, watch my head because I'm bowing at the same time. I might have bowed before you, so watch your nose. Hey, listen, this is what it comes down to, right? We get an opportunity. The only thing I would have to disagree with you, sir, is that you're 60 years young. And because if you was old, you wouldn't be having this conversation.
Well, thank you.
Would be rock bottom, you know. Or if you want,
like every other fight, brother, I am fighting it to the. I will fight it to my last breath.
That's exactly right. See, that's my point. Listen, if you want, you could be 60 years old, you could be 60 years young, or you could be 30 years young. You know, I mean, it adds up to the same thing. You know, it just a matter of perspective. When I became so-called 40, I said I was 20/20. Now I had clear vision, you know. Now I'm going to be 20/30 January, so I'm going to be 20/30, you know, 25/25. It doesn't matter. I can define it any way I want to, because if I would have listened to anybody else, well, we would have never done stuff.
Yep.
You know, but again, only thing that I ask you if it's possible is just two things, sir. If it's any way possible for you to share and contact my contact information with those people that you just mentioned that you know are the ones. I don't have all their numbers yet, but I want to be able to have everyone excluding McCallum, because I have his information. We did not one but two interviews, but I want to make sure everyone gets an opportunity, Troy and his brother, you know, to get an opportunity to speak. I need to have the real history brand. So if you could just spread it, share it, and I'm going to send you your link. Again, within an hour, you'll be able to go to dojine.com, that's DOJINE.com/Smedley, and this will be up. It'll be a bunch of pictures and videos and things that I'm going to grab, so it'll be like a nice landing page, and it'll link back to your website, you know, and I might link it back to your school Facebook, because that's what I do, you know. I'm a multimedia guy. But
sure.
That's one thing. Spread the word. And the next thing is, if there's any way possible in the future for us to revisit you and maybe ask you. I'm thinking about a few different things. Imagine us having a formal Demetrius Havanas tribute and other people like that. It could be done in a few other formats too. There's a thing called Google Plus, which is on most people's computers. You know, if you have a Gmail account, you're on Google Plus, and we can have a conference call via video using the phone and/or a computer, up to 9 people being on the same screen at the same time.
And that would be an incredible thing, Jerry. That would be an incredible thing.
This is the way I taught Master Corley, because he's my student when it comes to marketing. So he does those nice videos and stuff like that. I showed him, and he got even better than me in some aspects of it, you know. That's the way I train.
He's like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's like that. Yeah.
Like someone says to me, well, how's Corley doing? I said, well, I know today's Friday. Okay, at 6 o'clock in the morning, he was teaching. I know he was.
There you go.
And working out. You have never seen him out of shape. And now, the only time he gets a little, he gets a little lazy is where on Thursday it's 7 o'clock, and it's because Vitali doesn't want to wake up that early. Because Vitali's training with him too. In 2015. This is in 2015.
Yeah.
Lead by example.
Yeah.
From the front. Don't tell them what to do. Show them how to do it. What you do, speak so loud.
If we don't lead by example, who will? You know, if we don't lead by example, who will?
That's what I love, that statement. What you do, speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. I love that. And all those other quotes. Sir, I'm respectful of your time. Again, I appreciate it. Only one last thing. And some crazy words of Puerto Rican. So, take 2. We got action. Okay, good. And some crazy words of a Puerto Rican from the Bronx. So when I say A-B, sir, Mr. Smedley, you say see ya. A